Hello, everyone, and a very welcome to our new language teaching Takeoff webinar series, which focuses on making the most of the powerful tools available in the TeacherMatic Language Teaching Edition. My name is Giada, and I've worked in the language education sector for the past 7 years. I'm now part of the Avalon team, where we are committed to supporting educators with innovative and effective tools. And it is a pleasure to introduce our host, Nik Peachey. Nik will lead today's webinar titled Elevate Your Lesson Planning. Nik is an award-winning educator, author, and educational technology consultant with over 30 years of experience in the field of language education. He specializes in integrating emerging technologies, including generative AI, to improve teaching and learning outcomes. But before we begin, just a few practical notes. The chat function is disabled for this session, but you're welcome to use the Q&A tab here on Zoom. And we will aim to respond to as many questions as possible towards the end of the session. Also, please note that the webinar is being recorded, and the recorded will be shared via email after the event next week. Now, a big thank you once again for joining us, and I will hand over to Nik to begin the session of today. Thank you very much, Nik, for joining us.
Hi, thank you, and thank you for inviting me as well. Thank you for everyone who's coming along. I can't actually see who's here and who isn't, so I can't thank any of you by name, but thanks for making time during what I guess for some people might be their lunch hour, for other people it might be their breakfast time, and for others it could be just before they go to bed. Anyway, I'll start off by introducing myself. I'm Nik Peachey. I've been involved in language teaching, language education for over 30 years now, and for a large part of that, more than 25 years, working with educational technology and online learning specifically. In terms of TeacherMatic and the Avalon group, I've been working with them for about the last year, I guess, on the TeacherMatic product and helping to kind of tweak it and improve it for the use of English language teaching and English language teachers. And that's involved sort of looking at different levels and looking at different types of what we call generators, which I'll come to in a little while, and some of the issues that kind of specifically English language teachers face, which perhaps other educators don't face. There is also a version of TeacherMatic for kind of mainstream educators, but I think that our role within English language teaching is a bit different, and so we've kind of I've helped to adjust it for that, and that's been quite an interesting process. So I think I won't hang around too much sort of talking about things. It's probably best to jump in and show you some stuff, and if you do feel that you want to get deeper into it, there will be further sessions. We'll be doing a monthly session, or you could book a demo and someone from Avalon can sort of show you around individually and give you a hands-on session, which can be quite useful if you want to get more deeply into it. Anyway, so let's start with the TeacherMatic platform. This is kind of what it looks like. And at the moment, there are something like 40 generators for use in the English language, the language teaching part. This is a screenshot of the interface. And as you'll see, there are these blocks here, and each one of these blocks is a generator. When I'm talking about generators, what a generator is it's a pre-programmed prompt, if you like. So if you went to ChatGPT or something like that, you'd have to write your whole program, tell ChatGPT what you want it to do. To be good at that, you need to study it quite intensely and sort of understand how prompting works and things like that, and then work with the prompt and try and improve the output. These generators have all of that work has been done for you already. So when you use a generator, it's like a prompt that's been pre-programmed to do a specific task. You can still customize it, and I'll show you how you do that in a moment. But each one of these blocks here, each one of these generators, and I think there are over 40 at the moment, has been pre-programmed to do a specific task for you. And so that's great in terms of, suggestions and knowing what the platform can do for you, but it's also great in terms of, people have put a lot of time and effort into pre-programming those generators. So it's not like just somebody's written a prompt, tried it once, and thinks that looks okay. These have really been honed and improved to make sure that they're accurate for level, and make sure they're adjustable, and still make them customizable. When we go to the interface, which we will in a minute, if you look down the left-hand side, you'll see some aspects of the interface that are worth looking at. There's a favorite section. So if you sign up and you use TeacherMatic, you can save your favorite generators, makes them much easier to find. And there's also a section for new generators, and you can save the results and the output from each generator there. Also, within the management section, there are other generators which can help you with things like marketing and administration, which are sort of more general things that you need to do within a school. So it isn't just a kind of teacher-focused product. It's also a product that's been designed to address the needs of a school. So that, if you're looking for an AI solution, it can be a complete solution for your school, rather than having to sort of find 10 or 20 different tools to do different jobs. And that's one of the nice things about it. One of the other great things about the AI generators is they've been designed to help you adapt content and sort of change different things about the content. And there's lots of different ones and some ideas here. I think let's go and have a look at the interface, and it sort of all makes more sense once you get in there. So this is the live site now. So hopefully my internet stays up. And these are the different generators here. Okay, and if I go, you can see there are lots of ones. There's an Ask an Expert one, one's for adapting content, CFR level checker, that kinds of things. Lots of different and quite useful things. I really like the dialogue creator. That's a useful one, and stuff like that. So lots of useful ones there. I'll go to my favorites because I've saved the lesson planner in there, I think. And we'll look at this one for today. And this is the lesson planner. So when I've got the one I want to use, I just click on Use. And what it does, it opens this interface with a number of fields. So this is how we can personalize it and make it do exactly what we want to do, instead of just producing a sort of random lesson plan. So we need to put in the topic. I'm going to do, I want to do a lesson on apologizing, something that every British person needs to do, as we all apologize a lot. So I put in the topic, apologizing. My lesson aims are so to help students use a structured approach to apologizing. Often when you look in course books, all they teach you about apologizing is to say sorry, but actually apologizing is a much more structured process, and one that's actually very useful to understand in terms of soft skills, building relationships, and maintaining relationships. Great for business students as well as teenagers and other anybody who's involved in a relationship, which is pretty much all of us, I hope. Helps me get on better with my wife, understanding this. Okay, so I want to help students understand a structured approach to apology. I'm not doing very well on my apologizing. Structured approach to apologizing. Lesson objectives. Understand and use. So understand and use the structured approach. I want it to be a 60-minute lesson. I think making an apology takes a bit of time. And now something that's really kind of unique, I think, to this platform is that you can sort of select your the different approaches for your lesson plan, whether you want to make it a community language teaching approach, lexical approach, task-based learning, or anything like that. I think we'll start with CLT. And then the next one down again, really useful for language teaching is the level. We can select a level. This, I think, should be about a B1 or a B2 practice. I'll do B2 just to be on the safe side. And then from within skills, I can focus on the different skills that I want to use within this lesson. So I'd say speaking, probably listening. I think it's also interesting that, that you can drill down to sub skills as well. So there's a sub skill there. Listening. I'll go for understanding interaction between native speakers, although native speakers aren't particularly good at apologizing to each other a lot of the time. And there's a speaking sub skill, deciding experience, public announce, addressing an audience. I'll go for putting a case, a sustained monologue. Okay, I could now go down here and put in a more detailed learner profile if I wanted to. I'm not going to do that this time because I'm going to come back and do it again so that you can see the contrast between the two different approaches. And the other thing that I could offer here is some supporting materials. And again, I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to repeat the process and show you that next time. So you can either upload a file if you've got a file that you want to use, or if you've got a text or transcript that you want to use, or link to a website. Okay, so that's me programmed and ready. And then all I need to do to make my lesson plan is just to click on generate. And it starts cooking it. I'll just have a quick drink while that's happening. Okay, and there it suddenly appears. And let's scroll back to the top. So we've got structured apologizing for real life situations. And there's my kind of lesson plan headers with all the things that I put in. And now it's got a lesson plan broken down stage by stage. We've got a warmer. It says what its objectives are, its whole class. So teacher writes the word apologize on the board and asks students, when do we apologize? Why is it important? Elicits responses, that kind of thing. Second stage, the listening activity. Students listen to an audio clip of two native speakers apologizing. Yeah. The structured approach, next part, introduce the structured approach. And it's giving a 3-step structured approach. So acknowledge the mistake, offer an apology, suggest a solution, or show intent to make amends. So that's the structured approach. And then they've got a guided practice. So in pairs, students work in pairs, and each pair is given a scenario, and they have to take it in turns to apologize. Then there's a bigger role play activity. And then there's some kind of reflection on how that worked. So quite a nice structure, and lots of communication in there. That's the plan. And underneath, it's also produced some resources or some examples of resources. And again, you could take these resources as they are, or you could produce your own resources based on this lesson plan. Or if you wanted to dig into it in more detail, you could go to some of the other generators and produce some of the different things that you want for this lesson plan. For example, when it has to introduce the structured approach, you could actually go to the presentation creator and then create a presentation to do that. And you can go and produce more detailed scripts. But there's some example resources there. So audio clips of people that apologizing, some notes about the structured approach and guided practice scenarios. If, for example, you like this lesson plan, but there was some aspect of it you weren't too sure about, I'm not sure that a 3-step approach is enough. I've actually heard about 4-step approaches or 6-step approaches. You could actually go to this part and ask it to refine it. So you could sort of add make it a 4-step approach instead of a 3-step approach or something like that. You can save the results here as well if you want to. And at the bottom, there's an export as. So you can decide where you want to export it. So if you're just going to use the lesson in class, you might want it as a Word document that you can edit and make adjustments to, or it could be a PDF, or you could put it straight into your Google Drive or into Google Classroom or Moodle or something like that. Okay, so there's lots of ways to save and reuse the lesson. So you don't have to come back here and generate it every time. Anyway, I'm going to close that and I'm going to repeat that process. And this time we'll look at differentiating it a bit more by sort of adjusting it to the kind of students we want. And we'll look at trying a different approach to see how different that one was. I mean, the one we've just looked at, it's nice communicative language learning approach, but quite PPP. I'm forgetting my number of P's nowadays. So it started with the presentation, it had control practice, and then went to the role play for free practice. Nothing wrong with that. Lots of people do with that, but let's see how we can do it a little bit differently. And again, I'm going to go for apologizing and try and spell it. Apologizing. Okay. First names. Okay. Teach students how to use a structured approach. Understand the structure and when to use it. That's pretty much similar to what I put last time. 60 minutes, no, not 650, 60 minutes. Okay, and now I'll go for the task-based learning approach. Okay, I'll go for the same level, B2. Within my CRF skills. Well, let's look at a different one. There's one, mediation and interaction, which seems like it would suit apologizing, wouldn't it? And then there's a mediation sub-skills, a sort of subscale as well. I like this one, cultural awareness in communication, which sort of adds an interesting level to it. And this time we'll look at our learner profile. I won't go for a kind of absolute description of the profile, but what I'll have a look is learning needs. So if I click on the learning needs here, it shows you that we can adjust the lesson plan and get tips for how to use it on different aspects of neurodiversion or something like that, neurodiversity. So it could be hearing impairments. I'll go for emotional behavior disorders. So I want it to be adjusted for that. This time I'm going to use some supporting materials. I found a website from Oprah Daily. I'm not sure if that's anything to do with the Oprah, but let's see if I can grab the URL for that. Copy that and take it back. And it gives a kind of detailed approach. It actually uses a 6-step approach in the text on the website. And I'll put that in. And now we'll see how this lesson plan generates differently from the last one. Just take a couple of minutes to do that. And again, you know, if you're using this as a school solution and you've got lots of different teachers using it to plan their lessons, you know, all of those lesson plans and the materials can be shared and stored in here, which sort of makes it much more easy to retrieve lessons and materials. Okay, so this is our structured approach to apology, 60 minutes, it's got similar aims. So in this one, the pre-task phase, it's teacher introduces a topic, provides explanation of 4-step structure. And I've got a 4-step structure now instead of 3. So acknowledge the mistake, express regret, make amends, promise it won't happen again. And there's a couple of activities there. Discuss students, brainstorm common situations where it might happen. And then they practice recognizing the structures during pair class. And then there's a role play activity. So where they try it out. then a whole class activity, and then they revisit it again, looking again at the four-step structure. So quite a different approach to it from the first one that we saw, which was much more towards a PPP, but some nice activities there. And again, we've got the activities resources under here, which you could build on using the other generators. So there's the steps to apologizing: acknowledge the mistake, express regret, make amends, promise that it won't happen again. And then suggestions for worksheets. There's some examples there: recognizing the steps, role play situations, some suggestions for those, homework situations. And here at the bottom, we've got our lesson adaptations for emotional and behavioral disorders. So there are some tips for providing clear instructions and repeat them if necessary, break down activities into smaller, more manageable steps, and allow students to work with trusted peers. So some really useful suggestions if you're dealing with those kind of students in your class. And I guess if you also had some dyslexic students in your class, you could regenerate it again, focusing on those type of students. And as I said, once you're done, you can export it, or you could refine it and ask it to change it in some way. But again, sort of quite a different lesson plan from our first one. It's drawn on the materials there and added extra steps to the apology process, and given us some quite different materials. And if I wanted to, I can just save those results. And I've got lots of different folders here that I can save them specifically into. So that makes them easy to find again. Okay, so that's basically, our approach to using the lesson planner. And again, you can see from the other generators that are here, lots of other things that you could build on that material with. You could build a glossary for it with this one. You could actually create a dialogue using the dialogue generator where, which would sort of involve having a structured apology or something like that. So lots of different other things that you can use and adapt it with. There's the PowerPoint presentation generator. You could use that to sort of generate your presentation about the different steps to apologizing. Okay, so that's just a basic introduction to kind of using TeacherMatic to generate lesson plans. I hope that's been helpful and given you some idea of the kind of potential that it has.
So a big thank you everyone for joining us today. It was great to have you here in the first session of the Language Teaching Takeoff webinar series. A big thank you to Nik for showing us the super useful lesson plan generator and the lesson plan on apologizing. So thank you for that.